What is a Lotus Cortina? What is a hat car? Where is Canada? We'll find out today on this episode of Lemon's World. Silversleeves Racing is one of our favorite all-time Lemons teams, and they hail from Canada, which is up there somewhere. They've built a bunch of cool stuff for Lemons, including this Wolseley Hornet and this Austin Land Crab on a Ford Probe chassis. That Austin on a Ford, that's an example of what we call a hat car. A car wearing another car as a hat.
Oh, this is the worst looking hat I ever saw. Well, you buy a hat like this, I'll bet you get a free bowl of soup, huh? Oh, it looks good on you, though.
So when Silversleeves Racing found a Ford Cortina shell on Craigslist, they knew they were in for their second hat car, building a Cortina on a BMW 3 Series chassis.
The Ford Cortina is a small sedan made by Ford's European division, and at one point it was the best-selling car in the UK. But in North America, it's pretty obscure. Here's a fun fact. Cortina was designed by the same guy that designed the Edsel, who apparently got banished to the UK after designing the Edsel.
Oh, bollocks.
Enthusiasts on this side of the pond probably mostly know the Lotus Cortina, which had a special engine, special suspension, special brakes, etc. These are rare, valuable, and clearly not the car that Silversleeves was working with.
No, it was not. As mentioned, this car was a Craigslist find. It was a regular non-Lotus Cortina, and it had its entire drivetrain and floors sawzalled out so the body could be slapped on a 4x4 chassis, which admittedly would also have been awesome.
Before that could happen though, Silversleeves nabbed the shell and started taking field trips to the junkyard with a measuring tape to find the right donor chassis for the Cortina body. Now, around this time, Team Captain Sean was given a free E36 3 Series BMW, and after the initial excitement of possibly creating a Cortina/E36, he discovered that dimensions were just too far off to make it work practically.
But that did plant the idea of using a BMW chassis, just a smaller one, and the team found that the previous generation 3 Series, the E30, had dimensions that were close enough to the Cortina. So they found a completely clapped out, high mileage E30 convertible to serve as the chassis donor. Now this car shows 488,000 kilometers on the clock, which the team believes to be accurate, and that equates to something like 21 miles.
Here's where we should mention that if you have an inkling of building a hat car for Lemons, you kind of got to go through a whole build process with our tech officials. The reality is that most hat cars will not pass Lemons safety tech, so you need to loop in our tech people from the get-go to make sure you're doing it right and safely.
Now, Silversleeves, as we mentioned, they built a hat car previously for Lemons, and they knew all of that. They got in touch with us from the very beginning, and once all was said and done, our tech boss, John, proclaimed the Cortina to be the
best hat car that I've ever seen in Lemons.
Sensational!
Most of the work to prep this car was connecting the body to the chassis. And when it came to the worn-out BMW underpinnings, that was left pretty much alone.
The suspension, by the team's own description, was totally sacked stock BMW, the brakes were stock, the engine, an M20, was left alone aside from getting a new timing belt. The car performed impressively well in its debut race at the Ridge, finishing 14th overall. The only bit of disappointment was being denied Judge Tom's promise of putting anything British in Class C, although we'd say Judge Tom accurately assessed the amount of Britishness present in this machine and stuck them in Class B instead.
Good show.
But who cares for finishing positions and classing and all that stuff? We thought this thing was amazing and awarded it the coveted Organizer's Choice Trophy. Not bad for some rusting British sheet metal slapped on top of an old worn-out BMW.
So good. Jolly good.
Every second you don't subscribe or watch one of these videos, another Vega is sent to the crusher. Won't you help us save Classic?